This is Outnumbered. I'm Jillian Turner. Here with us today is host of Sincerely Kat on Fox Nation, Miss Kat Timpf, also New York City physician and Fox News contributor, Dr. Nicole Saphier, syndicated radio host and Fox News contributor, Leslie Marshall, and joining us today, former Wisconsin congressman who is also a Fox News contributor, Sean Duffy. Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Well, someone who is not lacking enthusiasm are the two parties here. Leslie, we're seeing, take a look at the bigwigs that are going to come out over the following final day stretch. It kind of tells you everything you need to know. On the Democrat side, we've got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, Stacey Abrams on the right. We've got the president, the vice president, Nikki Haley, Lindsey Graham, on and on and on. You think this is going to really, is this going to be kind of what hard charges either one of these sides across the finish line, or is this just like icing on the cake right now?
Well, I would tend to agree with what Sean said. Rachel did a great job with the tie, by the way, Sean. No, just joking. So look, you have to. This is a complete ground game. This state, this specific race right now is a complete ground game. Overwhelming majority of voters on both sides have already made up their mind. It's getting those people who have made up their mind who haven't come out to vote yet to come out to vote on Tuesday. And some of these big names can do that, the president and the president-elect on the opposing sides. But, you know, I don't think issues, quite frankly, like China, really matter to the voters on one side or the other. And I find it interesting that David Perdue's talking about China because he lived in Hong Kong for years when he was working for Sara Lee. He actually created more jobs working for Sara Lee and for the dollar store in China than he has in the United States and for the people of Georgia, and that certainly could backfire. And that's not what the voters in Georgia care about. The voters in Georgia care about those $2,000 stimulus checks. The voters in Georgia care about the composite of the Senate, who's in control and who will be the majority leader. And for some, it comes down to a race between a white man and a black man, or a man and a woman, or a Christian and a Jew. It really does, for a lot of these voters, it becomes very personal for them. This is a very different composite. I agree with Sean. The demographics of Georgia have certainly changed. We're seeing that in many states. Georgia's definitely one of them. And this is very tight, and it's all about not just who supports who, but who comes out to really show their support in voting next week on Tuesday.
That was Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell a few moments ago. He essentially repeated his claims from yesterday, calling the $2,000 COVID relief checks, quote, socialism for the rich. Leslie, what do Democrats think about this idea that people who are making $74,000 today, who are making $74,000 yesterday, who are making $74,000 last year, stand to benefit so greatly from this, while people who have lost entire small businesses, who maybe had income over $75,000 this year, but are hemorrhaging cash, making lots of payouts to healthcare companies on behalf of their employees, are going to see nothing?
Well, quite frankly, I don't know what bill you're looking at. The cap is $75,000 per person adjusted gross income, which is not rich by even by any
just so
American standard.
That was why I said 74. It was just an example, right under that mark.
By any American standard. Look, the problem that you have when you are giving money to over 300 million people in this country, how are you going to determine who's out of work right now, whose businesses have suffered right now? When we look at our tax returns, when are those filed? Not till April 15th for the year before. Sean, I don't agree with you in agreeing with McConnell and Toomey, but I do agree that some people need this money more than others. So do we punish the people that right now are in dire need, whether it's $600 or $2,000, because there's no way our government's going to be able to figure out a way to pick and choose who gets this money, and we know that. So when you have a stimulus check and when you have a bailout, as some are calling it, to help the American people, they do need it right now, and you really don't have the time to sit there and say, well, did this person make $5,000 less this year or $50,000 less this year, or how badly are they suffering? At the end of the day, And it's not socialism. If it's socialism, then rich people shouldn't be getting Medicare or Social Security either, both federal programs that we all as taxpayers pay into.
Fair point. President Trump's Operation Warp Speed did deliver coronavirus vaccines before the end of 2020 as committed. The problem is getting those shots now injected into Americans. A new shocking state-by-state breakdown from the CDC tells us that just 2.8 million people have been vaccinated across the country. That falls far short of the 100 million Health and Human Services Secretary Alex Azar said would have shots by now. President Trump's tweeting the federal government has distributed the vaccines to the states. Now it's up to the states to administer. Get moving. But state healthcare systems are already overstretched. California, the nation's new epicenter, has not used nearly 80% of available vaccines. In New York City, meanwhile, where the virus is also resurging, today's New York Post asks, where's our shot? As the city has also administered just 20% of available doses. Meantime, New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo is drawing criticism this week for saying recovering addicts in rehab facilities will be among those to get vaccinated early in the next round. Leslie, I want to hear your thoughts reacting to what Sean said a few moments ago, which is that President Trump did his end, fulfilled his end of the bargain. He should be taking a victory lap now.
Look, nobody should be taking a victory lap as Americans are dying. Here in the state, people are dying every, few minutes from COVID-19. What we have here is three problems, right? You have federal bureaucracy and red tape. You have state bureaucracy and red tape. But then something nobody's yet mentioned is the private sector. Let me give you an example, and I'm not picking on this company. I'm going to use it as an example because we had a problem here in this state specifically. Walgreens is supposed to help a number of nursing homes. Walgreens and the nursing homes haven't been able to come up with a way to administer those vaccines. And to Dr. Sapphire's point, she's right. When you have so many people working, as we are right now, we have 0 beds in many ICUs in many counties in this state. We have run out of body bags. We have tents being built in parking lots. We are surging. This is my sister-in-law is an ER physician in Northern California. I spoke to her yesterday, and she said it is hell. It is a war zone. And additionally, some of these healthcare workers aren't being vaccinated. They're next in line. Look at Florida. Marco Rubio had his injection before many healthcare workers. That's wrong by any state standard. I don't care if you're a Democrat-run or a Republican-run state. So it's a multifaceted distribution system with multifaceted problem. The federal government, the state government, and the private sector like the Walgreens, the CVS, the Rite Aid, et cetera, they should be working together. It's easier said than done.
It's a fair point, Leslie. Give our best to your sister-in-law. Thank her for everything she's doing. The stock market has ended 2020 on a high note. The Dow closing at a record 30,606. The S&P also hit a new record, and the NASDAQ climbed even higher. President Trump tweeted shortly before midnight last night, finished off the year with the highest stock market in history, setting records with your 401ks, just like I said you would. Congratulations to all. Meantime, a new survey of Wall Street insiders found most believe the next 4 years under President-elect Biden will be worse for investors than it was under President Trump. That's largely due to Biden's plan to raise corporate taxes. So, Leslie, to pick up on that point, what's your best guess as to why Wall Street may not be so jazzed about a Biden presidency? And should ordinary Americans really care what Wall Street bankers think about the economy?
I like that question and the question you asked at the beginning of this segment.
I thought you
because,
might.
When you talk about a stock portfolio, the violin stays in the case because most Americans aren't caring about that right now. Right now, it's all about the pandemic and it's about getting their jobs back. Look, Wall Street in this CNBC poll may say that, but if you look at the fine print of the poll, it also said that the majority of the insiders felt that the stock market would continue to increase in the years ahead during a Biden administration. And also, if you remember, Goldman Sachs and Moody's both said that recovery would be better under a Joe Biden presidency, and that was before he became the president-elect. And to your question specifically, Wall Street always is going to feel, more confident with a Republican because Republicans tend to do what they've done and what Republicans did here, which is corporate tax breaks, which is a tax break for the rich, Democrats, not so much. And obviously Joe Biden's a Democrat, and that's why I think the insiders in this particular poll came down, and broke down 2/3 to have that opinion.
They're known as the Freedom Force, a group of GOP House freshmen banding together to take on the far-left squad. The diverse group came together after they realized they share a special bond. All had first or secondhand experience living in communist or socialist countries. Congresswoman-elect Nicole Malliotakis, whose mother was born in Cuba, represents New York's Staten Island and parts of Brooklyn. She tells Politico, "It was a natural alliance that formed. We understand what it's like in other countries. We understand how truly special this nation is." But also, and Leslie, I'm not saying this is you, but I'm saying a lot of people that are Democrats or on the left, they kind of still see immigrant or even immigrant adjacent Republican as being sort of an oxymoron. A lot of people have that narrative. So do you think there could be some influence there, or what do you think about that perspective?
I live in California. Are you kidding me? Not the Democrats here.
Right.
We certainly know. We certainly know that both parties have, immigrants or immigrant adjacant, as you put, as a part of the party. Look, imitation is the best form of flattery, and in a sense, these young Republicans, freshman Republicans, are forming their own squad, if you will. I think it's great. I will agree with Sean. Don't faint. Happy New Year, Sean. When it comes to leadership and when it comes to coverage, and not just that, social media. I mean, AOC is on there all the time. As a matter of fact, Hakeem Jeffries and others have criticized her
Well,
for
these
that.
folks are too, by the way. This new squad is good at social media. Sorry to interrupt, Leslie, but they have tons of followers between them.
No, absolutely. And I think this is going to be the way. The majority of Democrats in the House, in the Senate, and the majority of Democratic voters are centrist and moderates like myself. So some of them, don't agree with anything, certainly everything that the squad says. So this will be interesting to watch. But I like it. Bring it on.
Cities across America putting 2020 in the rear view, and not a moment too soon for most of us. It was a year like no other, but like every year, it ended with most of us making New Year's resolutions. It's now time for your outnumbered panelists to come clean our 2020 resolutions and our chances of actually sticking with them. Leslie, quickly, anything for you?
Yes, similar to Sean, it was sort of like any junk food my kids were eating, Mommy ate when she didn't feel like cooking. So I would say to cook healthy, to eat healthy, to be healthy, to get healthy.